Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to tune into Uranus stationing direct. Let's remember that when a planet stations direct, there's a great amount of concentration and attention on that planetary function. The energy that's beginning to open up as that planet stops and then begins to build momentum often happens by way of facing a great amount of stress. Something is here, there's a new direction, a new path, a new experience, a new point of awareness, but I haven't quite yet gone there. It's just beginning to unfold. So more often than not, and this can be especially true with the outer planets, when a planet stations direct, there's often a heightened sense of stress. Something's really intense, but it's calling forth greater thoughtfulness and attention. Relative to Uranus, this is healing our mind, correcting our thinking, liberating from the precedent of the known. We're invited to see things more broadly, more openly. Now, let's jump into this. Here's the challenge and what can be arising right now, and I would say over the next few months. Because this stationing direct is also joined with Jupiter that just stationed direct in Taurus a month ago and is picking up speed, right? Building speed, getting stronger, moving towards Uranus. So for the next February, March, April, 3 months, there's a growing energy of Jupiter moving towards Uranus. So these Uranus and Taurus themes, in my read of the entire time that Uranus is in Taurus, this year, these few months in particular, are probably one of the most heightened periods of this transit. So it's very helpful to tune into what are the core teachings, lessons, and intentions of this Uranus, where is it transiting in your own chart, etc. So the issue with Taurus in general is there's a tendency within human consciousness to become overly acclimated and comfortable and fixed on what we know. What's secure, what's familiar, what's pleasurable. And so we form addictive habits and patterns that basically emanate from a core survival impulse, right? We gravitate towards the continuity of knowing here are the things that I can get that make me feel good, that bring me a sense of ground, and that make me feel pleasure. I'm not feeling pain. I can depend upon these things. That basic sense of dependability and reliability in our physical reality. There's nothing implicitly wrong with that, and from a survival point of view, that's needed, and to know how to identify and have the resources we need. The problem becomes when our world becomes too narrow. We only know the world that we're narrowly fixated on and dependent upon. This can become the point of not just addiction, but a sense of internal security linked with the things that I identify as valuable, that I need. And so our own sense of security and value can easily become displaced and associated with the objects, people, places, things, experiences that make us feel a certain way. And so when our focus of life experience becomes overly narrow, and to some extent, it's overly narrow for all of us. Like we all gravitate towards these fixed patterns of familiarity and associations and comfort. And we'll know that we're overly fixed if we simply observe what happens when you take that thing away. Right? So when we're overly fixed, what happens is we lose and disconnect from the greater scope and broader reality of what's actually here. Anytime there's a narrow fixation on anything, when this is how I need to have it, this is what I need, we miss out on the greater, broader potential and scope of life itself. So when we remove something that we're acclimated towards, we'll know immediately by way of our feeling body the extent to which it was narrowing our consciousness. So our consciousness, our soul energy is like big and expansive and infinite by its very nature. Our inner beingness as a soul, our power is beyond anything we actually can understand. We limit that and we narrow this greatness by way of these addictive fixed patterns. You know, I was listening to a podcast by Andrew Huberman, and he said something to the likes of, He defines addiction as the increasing and exclusive interest in only one thing, or where we become exclusively interested in a narrowing field of experiences, right? I'm not open to possibilities. Like the plastic and open and fluid mind that isn't very conditioned won't have many fixed addictive patterns. But once I've tasted this and I know it makes me feel a certain way, I know I can produce certain chemical sensations, which on a very basic level says I'm alive, I'm surviving, I'm doing okay, or I'm getting the reward chemicals in my brain, then I'm going to become predominantly and progressively exclusively focused on these things that make me feel good. So when we take something away, we notice how we feel. I just finished this 2-month window where I committed myself to no sugar and no caffeine. And with the exclusion of blueberries, I didn't even have any fruits. So I wanted to really create a conscious space where I abstained from the stimulation, sugar, even in fruits, and caffeine that I was consuming every day. Not because of some kind of ideology or a diet or belief about those things, although I think too much caffeine, too much sugar, obviously I've noticed isn't that great for my health, but to practice and to demonstrate for myself my agency, that I can use my will and my choice to say, I'm not going to eat those things. I mean, it was during holiday season. I think I've attended 2 or 3 birthdays during that time. And to not eat the cake, to not consume. I've had a lot of inner work that I've needed to do, a lot of sleepless nights, no caffeine those days. What I learned from that experience very quickly is there's such a familiarity and a dependency, in particular on caffeine, that I would use it to avoid feeling. It actually became a mask that I would put on to kind of keep my energy up, to keep me moving, to keep me productive. But by using that from a Taurus perspective, it limited the greater field of possibilities. Like when we take a resource away, at first there's a sense of I'm deprived without it. But then without it, what else can I see? What else is there? I feel in a sense my intelligence is reclaimed through this experience, because it allowed me to recognize the fruitive garden of possibilities in front of me. Right? If I'm feeling low energy and I'm not going to turn towards coffee or pu'er tea, maybe I can work out. Maybe I can take a shower. Maybe I can do some exercise. Maybe I can move some energy and have a emotional discharging session. There are all these other ways of moving my energy and coming back into vibrancy that I really wouldn't see. I wouldn't do these things if there is too much of a fixation on the thing that I'm familiar with, that I know works. See, we don't realize how much we're limiting ourselves and how narrow we've made our lives by the things that we just do every day. Much of what I'm saying relates to Jupiter. And this is, again, the theme that I really see emerging. Jupiter so often says, take something away to see what's there. And that might feel like a big loss, so especially in Taurus. Resources may not be available right now in the same way that they have been, okay? And that can feel very stressful. Like the whole Uranian dimension is like we're looking at this like subconscious trauma of being in poverty, of not having what we need, of needing to struggle to survive. Like there can be a lot of fear. There can be a sense of difficulty right now when it comes to the flow of our resources or the availability of things that we're otherwise dependent upon or fixed on. The theme that's emerging right now is to really recognize there's a greater scope of potential in life far beyond what we know. And this is the core of Uranus. The intelligence of life and the interconnectedness of me and all that I got and you and all that you got and our skills and our gifts and the unfolding of possibilities when we have new ideas, right? There's that quote from Victor Hugo, something like, there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. When you have an insight, when you see a new way, a new possibility, suddenly there are new pathways that you can walk that you couldn't walk prior to that moment. but I need it this way. I need my coffee. I need my sugar. I need the way that I know how to make money, right? I need my home, the things. We're confusing the value of life and the feeling of being lived and feeling livable and feeling good and whole and embodied and safe here with particular object focus. We need to be able to make a distinction between feeling alive and healthy and well and engaged and the energy of abundance and the conditions that we've associated with that. The conditions that we associate with that inner quality of value and life becomes that which narrows our scope of experience and actually narrows and limits that scope of abundance. So whatever is present in our life right now, it's very clear that it's something very big and expansive and new. And where there might be a sense of anxiety or loss or overwhelm or I don't know how I'm going to make it work or I don't have what I need, to really appreciate that there's a growth of this Jupiter-Uranus energy. We're here to see the big picture Jupiter, to recognize more clearly, more lucidly what's beginning to actually unfold right now. And thus to actually see with greater clarity all the resources that we actually have. I'll close with one final thought. So Taurus has something to do with relationship. It's ruled by Venus. It's not necessarily social relationship, but it's our relationship to the entirety of our physical reality. Our relationship to our body, our senses, literally all of the senses are faculties of survival, and it relates to how we are extending relationship to the outer world, feeling our way, sensing, hearing, smelling. It's on the most biological level, it says our physical senses enable us to be in a healthy, survival-based relationship to the world around us so that we don't die. On a deeper spiritual level, the relationship with our physical reality brings an immense amount of consciousness and thoughtfulness and reflection around what am I here for? What do I need? How am I choosing to be in relationship to this? Like we can orient to our life entirely from more of a self-pleasure masturbatory orientation where it's just about getting my basic needs gratified. Right? So that's going to be on the most gross level, avoid pain and seek pleasure. And if it's going to make me feel better, I'm going to go for it. But not necessarily a broader, broad-minded awareness of what is the body for? What are the senses really for? Is it just about survival? Or is that more of a means to an end? So on a deeper level, the quality of relationship invites, and just the nature of relationship by its very word actually is a deeply sacred thing. And I want to really honor the truth of this. When we commodify something, and it could be someone, we say, this is what you are for me. Right? You are objectified as this object. And we do that with objects as much as we do it with people when we start thinking of the world in terms of what is it going to get for me? What is it going to do for me? When we're in relationship, there's always a quality of exchange or of giving back and of honoring and bowing to the gift that we are to one another. We do this with things as much as we do it with people. The gratitude and the spaciousness and delight that we feel about the things in our life, the money that we receive, the teacup that we drink out of, the clothing that we have, it says, all of this is supporting and enhancing my capacity to live here and to live as the love that I am, to give my gifts, to open my heart, to share, to thrive, to give, to share, right? It's like the Taurus dimension becomes a vehicle for actually getting to live and open up to the fullness of what we are. We can feel the relevancy of how every dimension of our physical life becomes a means of supporting and enhancing the inner value that we're seeking to bring forward and express and share in this life. From this perspective, nothing is just self-serving. Even if it's about personal pleasure, personal survival, we can feel the appreciation of it because it really feels right for us. This is what I need. This is so good for me. The energetics of that gratitude are not addictive. The energetics of that gratitude are not fixated and narrow, because that gratitude is giving attention to the internal value that it's bringing up. that it's making available, that it's bringing our attention towards. It's not giving its attention towards the object itself. When I receive a gift or when I receive a payment and I know how helpful that payment is and I'm offering a service that feels in alignment, and I feel both the sacred reciprocity of the individual I'm working with and the exchange of the goods and services that I'm offering and the value that money has for the work and the life that I'm living, that I'm defining and consciously embodying and choosing, right? That feels beautiful. There's a spaciousness here. There's a quality of space and expansiveness that I can rest in. Contrast that with, I gotta figure out a way to make money. What can I sell? What can I do so I make more money? That's object focused. That's just focusing on, I need this thing. This money will be good for me. It'll help me survive. While on a very practical, sort of physical level, that's objectively true, it's not actually true when it's like true from a Newtonian physics perspective, but it's not true from a quantum physics perspective. It's like the actual reality of the present moment. What's actually real, what's actually true and right now is what we are, is the truth of our beingness, is our inherent interconnectedness, is the beauty and the wholeness and the agency of our soul. When we live in a way where the objects and the things in our life are seen as giving us something that we lacked, we commodify our life and we get fixed on the particular parameters that we think have to be in a certain way that we're familiar with. When we see everything as, like that teaching in the Tao Te Ching, it's the emptiness of the pot that allows for the utility of that pot to be made available. Everything in form is sort of an empty vessel. It serves a purpose. Right? This from the Scorpio polarity to Taurus. In fact, this is relevant because this Uranus rules Pluto, so there's a very inherent Plutonian connection, being that Pluto's in Aquarius now. The Scorpio polarity to Taurus says, what's this life for anyway? You're going to die. Everything's impermanent. This body that you value so much and all the things that you need and want and your strong fixation on earning money and having income and making sure you secure your resources, what's the point? What's it for anyway? Why are we doing this? Like, what's the higher function and meaning of biological survival from an evolutionary soul perspective? So we can think of the Taurus-Scorpio relationship as speaking to the way in which each soul needs to fundamentally value, honor, and care for their physical life. Meaning I have to want to be here. I have to be able to value my own worth. And I have to have self-esteem to be able to receive and have a physical relationship to this incarnation so I can do the work that I'm here to do. But let us not forget that it's not about the physical survival on its own. When that becomes overly materialistic, we have these kinds of transits where suddenly maybe the resources aren't flowing, something runs dry. We don't know how to get to where we need to be because our thinking is way too narrow. So just the beauty of contemplating the energy of sacred reciprocity, I feel there's a lot to speak to about that energy. To be in conscious sacred relationship. When we think about the idea of sacred, we often, sacred relationship, sacred masculine, sacred feminine, or whatever the terms that we might use. I think it's easy to sort of go into magical thinking. Like there's some sort of like heavenly parameter that makes this thing sacred, but this thing isn't sacred. The food that I bought at the food store, that was just me buying food. But the money that I bought for this class, that's a sacred exchange. I think what makes something sacred, to really use that term not in an intangible, inaccessible way, but to look at what is the meaning of sacred in a real practical way. In Hebrew, the word for sacred is kadosh, also means holy. And kadosh shares the root with kedusha or lekadesh, which is to discern or to separate. Right? We designate something with intention. We enter into relationship with a person or with an object or with a need with intention. And we honor it. We say, there is purpose and meaning that I'm designating to this experience to serve and enhance and support the value and beauty that already is. When we buy something at a store, we can actually give it that quality of kedusha. We can give it that holiness by acknowledging its value and its purpose and its meaningfulness But how often are we just spending money because, oh, we want to and it feels good, and we don't feel the beauty, the holiness, the value, the meaning of the exchange of the money that we have serves such a meaningful purpose, right? It's very easy to disconnect from the fact of all of our resources can be experienced and used consciously with respect to the greater meaning and value that it actually offers and enhances in our own life. And that really brings us to that greater refinement. Do I need the things that I have? Do I really want all of these things? Why do I have them? What is it for? And what do I really need? What's helpful? What's truly necessary? And when I'm honoring that the deeper truth of every physical relationship is to serve and support this beautiful opportunity of life that we're all living, to wake up, to be more of what we are, to give and share and care and extend our love and grow a greater realization of truth amongst all of ourselves, to recognize that we're all walking each other home, is to recognize that we all are given what we need to then give what we have, to contribute to the shared and greater awakening process. What we hold on to out of fear, what we're afraid of, what we're protecting, is not what we have. It's what we're lacking. That's why we're protecting it. And there's no relationship. We can't access that gratitude because we forget what it's for. We forget what we are truly here for. So it's helpful. I was just thinking about my training program. Consider this my final teaching of this video, but also a promo. And I was just like feeling into some of the parameters about it. The fact that my teachings, the video curriculum, all the content that I've created, the workbook, transcription, I'm charging money for it. I'm giving it a defined value. I'm saying, if you want this, you pay me this, right? I have tuition assistance available for those that can't afford that. So there's like this leeway, right? Yeah, I'm not saying this is its fixed value. I'm saying I'm open to relationship. What's abundant, but within your means, right? So there's that element that's very clear to me. But I was feeling into this new dimension. Like, these teachings aren't mine. I'm really just teaching what I'm learning, what I'm realizing. The essence of it is what I've received from my teachers and from the generosity of life. That's just giving and giving and giving. Like, it's like I'm not sharing a resource that I have. It's given. It's just there in my heart. It's just given. It's like, okay, how do I reconcile? I need to make money, right? And what this led me down is this question that I asked myself. What would I do and how would I think about my training program if I wasn't needing to associate a monetary value with it, right? If I wasn't saying I need to get something to give this. And what I was able to access is like this very good feeling, which is simply, oh, I would want to be happy. I would just want to be as helpful as I can, right? I would show up in a way where the orientation is, what is the way in which I can be most helpful? And what that led me towards is a new insight, which I've implemented and is now a part of my training program. And so here's my update and my exciting announcement and promo. We have the content, and then we have the weekly live meetings. I've added a new dimension. I want my classes with those who are joining me to be 100% focused on serving each individual on their learning journey at their level. So I've added another class. Basically, I've created two groups. Those who enroll in this program can join the beginners group, which is beginners, those who are just starting with the course content. You're totally new to astrology, you're new to this paradigm of astrology, or you're just wanting to start from the beginning. And then I have a group that is already at the intermediate content. These are people that have either already studied this material with me, or after several months, they've decided to join the second group. Students can join either group, right? Whatever level you're at. And that feels so good for me because what I had prior was there's one group for everyone at every level. But we all learn at different paces, and I have such a strong desire to be able to cater to where people are at and just be present. Like, that's where I receive the most joy, being deeply present and available for each student's learning journey. So it's, in a sense, creating not so much a cohort, but a momentum that's shared with a group of people that are all at a similar place in their learning, And then those who are ready can jump any moment they want to that next level with people that are at that level of readiness in their own learning. When you enroll, you receive access to both groups, right? So you join the one that you're wanting to be a part of. If you're in the intermediate group, you can join both groups, right? You can review the beginner's content. And I love that because that really brings forth the energy of, one, I feel that I'm making the resources that are in the inside more available, more accessible, more relevant to those who need it according to where they're at. And it allows community to form with people at similar stages of learning, which actually allows for more growth to happen, as opposed to, within one single class, total experts, advanced students, and total newbies all coming together for whatever reasons in the same course. I want advanced students to take my program because it's incredibly valuable. And I feel really excited about teaching this work, astrology, from a soul spiritual perspective, to even those that are really well studied in astrology, that know about houses and signs and planets, but want to start from the beginning. I want to be available for those people. And I want to be available for those who don't know what a house is, who have no clue what I'm talking about when I talk about houses, who are totally new to this work, just learned about astrology and just got interested in it. So this is a very Uranus and Taurus thing, with a healthy dose of like Jupiter insight and sort of expanded realization. It brings more community together. It allows me to feel more accessible, more available. And it's almost like you make this exchange with me, and then I get to just be available in the best way that I authentically can to meet you on your own journey. And naturally, the more you put into it, the more you offer into your practice, the more you get in return. So that's my exciting teaching, update, and promo. Learn more about this program in the link below. By the way, in my recent video on Pluto and Aquarius, I had the wrong link. So it was the biggest, most viewed video I've ever put out there, which is really exciting. But I was like, wow, no one's visiting. And I put the wrong link. So that's, which is maybe interestingly enough, because perhaps it was about me coming into this process of re-clarifying these elements that were somewhat ambiguous to me. So the correct link is below. Please be in touch. Those that are in need of assistance financially, there's a form you can fill out. Those who have extra means and are available to donate on behalf of those who cannot afford very much, or on occasion anything at all, there's an avenue for that as well. As always, thank you so much for watching.